The desperate transmission lieutenant Sarah Chen rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the quantum communication array aboard Deep Space Station Omega-7. The station floated silently in the void between Earth and the outer colonies, monitoring deep space for any signs of hostile activity. For 6 months, nothing had disturbed the endless darkness beyond human territory. Tonight would be different. The first anomaly appeared on her screens at 0347 hours. Strange quantum fluctuations were cascading through subspace, creating patterns she had never seen before. The signal was too complex to be natural interference, but too alien to be human in origin. Sarah's training kicked in as she began running diagnostic protocols, checking every system twice before accepting what her instruments were telling her. Commander Marcus Torres was not pleased to be awakened at such an early hour. He entered the communications bay, still adjusting his uniform, his weathered face showing the irritation of a career military officer who valued his sleep. Torres had served on the Rim for 15 years, and he had learned to be suspicious of everything that came from the void. "What's the situation, Lieutenant?" Torres asked, settling into the command chair beside her workstation. Sarah pulled up the signal analysis on the main display. "Sir, we're receiving structured transmissions from beyond charted space. The quantum signatures don't match any known human technology, and the mathematical patterns suggest intelligent origin." Torres studied the data streams flowing across multiple monitors. In his experience, mysterious signals from unknown sources usually meant pirates or rebels trying to lure military vessels into ambushes. The Outer Rim was full of criminals who would learn to exploit the isolation of deep space stations. "Could be a trap, Lieutenant. Pirates have been getting more sophisticated with their decoy signals." Sarah had considered that possibility, but the complexity of what she was seeing went far beyond anything pirates could create. The signal was using quantum encryption methods that human science had only theorized about. Whatever was sending this transmission possessed technology decades ahead of Earth's most advanced systems. "Sir, I don't think this is human technology at all. The quantum resonance patterns are completely foreign. I think we might be looking at genuine alien communication." The word alien hung in the air between them like an unexploded bomb. Humanity had been searching for signs of intelligent extraterrestrial life for over 3 centuries. They had found ancient ruins on dead worlds and mysterious artifacts in asteroid fields, but never living aliens. The possibility that first contact might happen on his watch made Torres deeply uncomfortable. "Can you decode it?" he asked after a long pause. Sarah's fingers danced across her keyboard as she ran the signal through various translation protocols. "The base structure is surprisingly similar to our universal communication standards. It's almost like they studied our methods and adapted them for compatibility. Give me 2 hours, and I should have something." Torres left her to work and retreated to his office, where he spent the time reviewing tactical reports and trying to ignore the growing knot in his stomach. His instincts, honed by decades of military service, were screaming that something massive was about to happen. He had felt this same tension before major battles during the Martian Rebellion. The feeling had never led him wrong. 3 hours later, Sarah burst into his office without knocking, her face pale with excitement and fear. "Commander, I've decoded the primary message. You need to see this immediately." They rushed back to the communications bay, where text was appearing on the main screen in perfect English. Torres read the words twice, hardly believing what he was seeing. "Emergency transmission to the Warriors of Terra. We are the Nexari Federation, representatives of 17 peaceful species. An ancient evil has awakened in our sector. The Void Hunters have returned after millennia of dormancy. 43 worlds have been consumed in the past 30 rotations. Billions of our people are dead or worse. Our fleets cannot stop them. Only the Terran warmongers can help us now. Please respond if you receive this message. Time grows short. Torres stared at the message in stunned silence. Terran warmongers, is that what they call us? Sarah brought up additional decoded fragments from the alien data stream. I found references throughout their transmissions, Commander. They know about Earth's history, our wars, our expansion into space. They specifically requested human military assistance because of our reputation for aggressive warfare. Why would they come to us if they have faster-than-light communication and we're just discovering they exist? Surely their technology is more advanced than ours. Sarah pulled up more translated data revealing tactical assessments and cultural analyses that the aliens had compiled about humanity. From what I can understand, they're peaceful species that have never experienced large-scale warfare. The Nexari Federation appears to be a collection of civilizations that resolved conflicts through diplomacy and negotiation. They've been monitoring our radio transmissions and historical broadcasts for decades. Torres studied the alien assessment of human military capabilities. The Nexari had compiled detailed reports on every major conflict in human history, from ancient wars to the recent colonial rebellions. They seemed particularly interested in humanity's ability to adapt brutal tactics when survival was threatened. Show me everything about these Void Hunters, Torres commanded. The data that appeared on screen was fragmentary but terrifying. The Void Hunters were described as ancient machine intelligences that had terrorized the galaxy millions of years ago. They would awaken periodically, consume entire star systems, then return to dormancy for millennia. Unlike traditional conquerors, they didn't seek territory or resources in any conventional sense. They absorbed everything: matter, energy, and most horrifically, consciousness itself. Commander, Sarah said quietly, if these readings are accurate, the Void Hunters aren't just destroying worlds. They're harvesting them, converting everything into more machines. The organic beings they capture aren't killed, they're integrated into the machine network as living processors. Torres felt his blood run cold. An enemy that grew stronger with every victory, that could turn their victims into weapons against their own species. He had fought pirates, rebels, and hostile alien artifacts, but nothing like this. Send a priority transmission to Earth Command, he ordered. Tell them we have a first contact situation with hostile implications. Request immediate deployment of a battle fleet. The response from Earth came within hours. Admiral Helena Cross would personally lead the response fleet, bringing with her the most powerful warships in human space. Cross was legendary throughout the military, known for winning battles that other commanders wouldn't even attempt. She had earned her reputation during the Titan Wars, where her tactical brilliance had broken a rebel blockade that had lasted 3 years. While they waited for the fleet to arrive, more alien transmissions continued to pour in. The news grew worse with each decoded message. The Void Hunters were accelerating their attacks, consuming star systems at an increasingly rapid pace. What had started as isolated raids was becoming a full-scale galactic catastrophe. Sarah worked around the clock to maintain communication with the Nexari Federation. Ambassador Zixtal, the alien who had sent the original distress call, provided increasingly desperate updates on the situation in their territory. The Void Hunters had adapted to Nexori defensive tactics, and were systematically dismantling their civilization. Lieutenant Torres said during one of their communication sessions, "Ask the ambassador why they specifically requested human assistance. What makes them think we can succeed where their advanced technology has failed?" The response that came back would haunt Torres for years afterward. Commander Tohi's Ambassador Zixdollar's translated words appeared on screen. "We have studied your species for many cycles. You come from what we call a death world, a planet where everything evolved to kill everything else. Your people learned warfare not as a choice, but as a requirement for survival. The Nexiri Federation has known peace for 10,000 years. We have forgotten how to be monsters, but the Void Hunters remember. They are the greatest monsters the galaxy has ever known. Only monsters can fight monsters, and your species are the most efficient monsters we have ever encountered." Torres stared at the message, understanding finally why humanity had been chosen. They weren't being asked to be heroes or saviors. They were being asked to be what they had always been: survivors who would do anything, use any tactic, cross any line to protect themselves and those they chose to defend. 2 days later, the Crimson Fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Omega 7, 47 ships of the line, each one designed for a single purpose: to destroy humanity's enemies completely. Admiral Cross's flagship, the UES Retribution, was a kilometer-long battleship that had never lost an engagement. Surrounding it were destroyers, cruisers, assault carriers, and specialized hunter-killer ships that had been tested in the bloodiest conflicts of human expansion. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the assault carrier Bloodhound, a ship designed to deploy marine boarding parties into hostile vessels. Morrison had earned his reputation during the Asteroid Belt campaign, where his forces had cleared entire pirate strongholds using tactics that other species would consider war crimes. His crews specialized in close-quarters combat in the most hostile environments imaginable. Admiral Cross reviewed the alien intelligence reports while her fleet formed up for the jump to Nexari space. The tactical situation was grim but not hopeless. The Void Hunters were powerful, but they were also predictable. They had been using the same basic strategies for millions of years, relying on technological superiority and psychological warfare to overwhelm their enemies. All ships, Cross broadcast to her fleet. "We are about to make first contact with an alien species during wartime conditions. Our mission is to assess the threat, assist in planetary defense, and, if possible, eliminate the hostile force known as the Void Hunters. Remember that we represent all of humanity in this engagement. Show them why Earth's children are not to be trifled with." The Crimson Fleet vanished into hyperspace, heading toward a war that would determine whether humanity would become the galaxy's greatest protector or just another species consumed by an ancient evil. Behind them, deep space monitoring stations detected massive objects moving through the void toward human territory. The Void Hunters had noticed Earth's response and were coming to investigate these new players in their eternal game of predation. The Death World solution. The Crimson Fleet emerged from hyperspace into a scene of devastation that left even hardened military veterans stunned into silence. Admiral Cross stood on the bridge of Retribution, watching the tactical displays populate with the remains of what had once been a thriving star system. Broken ships drifted through space like metallic debris, and where Kepler Prime's third moon should have been, only an expanding cloud of processed matter marked its complete consumption. Captain Morrison's voice crackled over the fleet communication system from his position aboard Bloodhound. "Admiral, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. Whatever did this is still here. Cross studied the sensor data streaming across her command displays. The Void Hunter constructs were unlike anything in human military doctrine. The largest signatures showed objects the size of small asteroids moving with purpose through the outer system. They weren't ships in any conventional sense, but rather vast mechanical organisms that processed matter as they moved. All ships, battle stations, cross-ordered. Deploy fighters and prepare for engagement. Captain Morrison, ready your boarding teams. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, you're our liaison with the Nexari. Establish contact immediately. Sarah, who had been transferred to the flagship specifically for her alien communication expertise, worked frantically to reach Ambassador Z. The quantum interference from the Void Hunter constructs was making communication difficult, but after several attempts, she managed to establish a connection. The aliens' translated words appeared on the communications display with obvious relief. Admiral Cross, we had feared you would not come. The situation has deteriorated beyond our worst projections. The Void Hunters have consumed 67 worlds in 40 rotations. They are moving toward our core systems. Cross reviewed the tactical situation while her fleet moved deeper into the system. Ambassador, we need detailed intelligence on enemy capabilities and weaknesses. Our ships are ready to engage, but we need to know what we're fighting. What followed was the most comprehensive military briefing in human history, delivered by an alien intelligence to a species they had never met. In person, the Nexari had been fighting the Void Hunters for months, learning painful lessons about their enemies' capabilities. The Void Hunters operated through a hierarchical network controlled by massive command vessels called Nexus ships. These kilometer-long constructs served as mobile factories, processing plants, and fleet headquarters. Surrounding each Nexus ship were smaller hunter-killer units that engaged enemy fleets, while harvester drones consumed planetary matter. The critical weakness, Ambassador Zixtel explained, is that destroying a Nexus ship will disrupt all subordinate units in its network. However, our energy weapons cannot penetrate their adaptive shielding. They learn from each attack and modify their defenses accordingly. Cross smiled grimly. Ambassador, I think you've been fighting them wrong. Our species specializes in getting inside enemy defenses. The plan that Cross developed would have been considered insane by any conventional military standard. Instead of engaging the Void Hunters in a traditional fleet battle, the human forces would use their smaller size and superior maneuverability to get close enough for boarding actions. Marine assault teams would infiltrate the Nexus ships and destroy them from within. Morrison's assault teams prepared for the most dangerous mission in human military history. His Marines had trained for boarding actions against human ships and installations, but infiltrating alien constructs the size of cities required entirely new tactics. They equipped themselves with plasma cutters, nuclear charges, and close combat weapons designed for fighting in confined spaces. The battle began when the Void Hunters detected Retribution's approach to the largest Nexus ship. Hunter-killer units swarmed toward the human fleet, their weapon systems powering up with energy signatures that made Nexari survivors shudder with remembered terror. All ships engage at will, Cross commanded. The space around Kepler Prime erupted into violence. Human ships had been designed for wars against other humans, which meant they were built for close-range slugging matches with devastating firepower. The Void Hunters had never encountered enemies who deliberately closed to knife-fighting range, while absorbing massive damage. Bloodhound led the assault. using its armored hull to ram through the defensive perimeter around the primary Nexus ship. Morrison's boarding pods launched while his ship was still taking fire, carrying Marine assault teams directly into the alien construct's hull. What the Marines found inside defied every expectation they had developed about alien technology. The Void Hunter's ship was not a vessel in any human sense, but rather a vast living machine that processed matter and energy continuously. Corridors pulsed with mechanical organs, and the walls themselves seemed to watch the intruders with sensors that tracked their every movement. Sergeant Maria Vasquez led Alpha Team through passages that seemed to shift and adapt as they moved. Her squad had specialized in urban warfare during the colonial rebellions, fighting through cities where every building could be a fortress. The skills that had kept them alive in human conflicts served them well in the alien environment. "Contact! Front!" Vasquez shouted as mechanical defenders emerged from wall alcoves. The Void Hunter security drones were unlike any enemy she had faced, moving with perfect coordination and adapting their tactics in real time. But they had never encountered opponents who fought with the desperate ferocity of creatures who had evolved on a death world. The Marines advanced through the ship using tactics that horrified their Nexori observers. When conventional weapons proved insufficient, they used improvised explosives. When corridors became impassable, they cut new routes through structural supports. When security systems tried to trap them, they responded by systematically destroying everything in their path. Asterisk. Morrison coordinated the assault from Bloodhound's Combat Information Center, watching as his teams fought their way toward the Nexus ship's central core. "Alpha Team, you have mechanical reinforcements moving to cut off your escape route. Bravo. Team, break off and provide covering fire." The breakthrough came when Vasquez's team reached the central processing core. The chamber was vast, filled with machinery that converted captured consciousness into computational power. Thousands of alien minds, preserved in quantum matrices, were being used as living processors in the Void Hunter network. "Jesus Christ," whispered Private Chen as he stared at the horror before them. "They're still alive in there." Vasquez didn't hesitate. She armed every nuclear charge her team carried and set them for simultaneous detonation. "Command, Alpha Team is in position. Recommend immediate evacuation. We're going to light this thing up." The explosion that followed was visible from the outer system. The Nexus ship's death throes sent shockwaves through hyperspace, disrupting every Void Hunter unit within a dozen light-years. Smaller constructs simply shut down as their controlling intelligence vanished, while others began destroying themselves in mechanical seizures. Admiral Cross watched the tactical display as enemy signatures winked out across the system. "All ships target the remaining Nexus ships. Morrison, prep your teams for the next assault." The battle continued for 18 hours. With human boarding teams systematically destroying every major Void Hunter construct in the system. The aliens watched in amazement as human Marines accomplished what their advanced technology could not. The secret was not superior weapons or tactics, but rather the willingness to accept horrific casualties in order to close with the enemy. When the last Void Hunter construct went dark, the system fell silent for the first time in months. Ambassador Zixtel's message to Admiral Cross was simple. "We understand now why your species survived on a death world. You do not fight to win, you fight to ensure your enemy cannot." The victory at Kepler Prime marked the beginning of a new age in galactic politics. Within weeks, every major alien civilization had received detailed reports about the human response to the Void Hunter crisis. The species that had been dismissed as primitive barbarians from an unremarkable planet had accomplished what the combined fleets of 17 advanced civilizations could not. The Nexari Federation offered humanity a formal alliance, along with technology exchanges that would advance human science by centuries. But they also requested something else, that Earth establish a permanent military presence in their territory. The galaxy, it seemed, had many ancient evils that periodically awakened to terrorize peaceful species. Captain Morrison, now promoted to Admiral after his performance at Kepler Prime, established the first human military base outside human territory. The Deep Strike Command would serve as humanity's forward presence in alien space, ready to respond to threats that peaceful species could not handle themselves. On Earth, the successful first contact mission was celebrated as humanity's entry into the galactic community. But those who had witnessed the battle knew the truth. Humanity had not joined the galaxy as explorers or diplomats. They had joined as the monsters that other monsters feared. Deep space monitoring stations throughout human territory began receiving new types of transmissions. Distress calls from alien species facing threats they could not overcome alone. Ancient enemies awakening from millennia of slumber. Mechanical plagues spreading between star systems. Each message ended with the same request: please send the Terran warmongers. Admiral Cross, now commanding the newly formed Alien Response Fleet, read the latest batch of distress calls while reviewing deployment schedules for her expanded fleet. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, and it was exactly what they had always been, the species that others called when the monsters came calling. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, but not as anyone had expected. They came not as conquerors or colonizers, but as the civilization that other civilizations called when they needed something destroyed completely and permanently. In a galaxy full of peaceful species that had forgotten how to fight Earth's children, had become the immune system that protected intelligent life from the darkness between the stars. Ambassador Zixtal's final message to Earth Command summarized humanity's new role perfectly. We asked for warriors, and you sent us demons. We asked for soldiers, and you sent us nightmares. We asked for help, and you sent us yourselves. The galaxy is safer for Asterisk